This is Dr. David Pomeroy, your host on ADHD Focus. I wanted to remind you that the show is not intended to be a recommendation for diagnosis or treatment of any condition for any specific person. Please consult your mental health professional or doctor managing your ADHD or mental health issues about any diagnosis or treatment-related information that you hear on the show. Refer your ADHD provider to the show if he or she would like more information. Thank you. Hello, this is Dr. David Pomeroy, your host on ADHD Focus, the podcast which brings you real information about ADHD and various conditions. Today, I'm going to be talking with Dr. Douglas Puryear, who has come up with a lot of good basic strategies and kind of format that you can work from on a lot of different challenge areas with ADHD, many of which medications don't simply answer. Doug is a psychiatrist, discovered he had ADHD at age 64, and he's written 4 books, one of which is Your Life Can Be Better, which is using strategies for adult ADD. He also has 2 blogs that he keeps up with, addadultstrategies.wordpress.com, and you can look on the website of the show and get the exact spelling on that when you need to. So, Doug, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you for having me.
And you also had a note that you're enjoying life in Santa Fe. I'm sure your weather's better than here in Seattle.
Well, I don't know what it's like in Seattle. It's snowing here.
Oh, well, I wouldn't mind snow. Other people here would all be going home by now if they saw the 3rd snowflake. So one of the things that struck me all throughout your book, Your Life Can Be Better, is the basic structure of identify a problem, create the strategy, or perhaps read about it, look it up, find it, and then make a rule to implement it. And as you keep doing it, it will become a habit.
With hard work and time,
yes. Yeah, and as you say, you make a rule and you tell yourself you're going to do it, and 3 days later you realize you aren't doing it. So, as is often the case with those of us with ADHD, we say, well, there, stupid dummy, you didn't do it right.
Oh, don't do that.
No.
Don't say that.
You want to get out of that negative self-talk. Gee, I can...
Rule number, whatever, 18 or something is you're not allowed to call yourself names.
Yeah. I like that. Don't call yourself the name. And then what do you say instead? Well, I can try again. I can do better. I can learn how to do this. So it's not always on the negative emphasis.
Yeah.
So in terms of identifying the problem, where would that come up? Well, certainly people procrastinate, put things off. But there may be a lot of different reasons behind why it's put off. Mm-hmm. What do you find are helpful ways for someone to identify a more specific reason on that?
Well, I'm not so much into identifying the reasons. If you can, that can be very helpful, but there's so many reasons we procrastinate. The key thing, you said the word, which is specific, and this identifying the problem sounds simple and sounds obvious, at least to me, but actually it's not. And the example I always use, because it's my first one and biggest one and easiest one, is I was losing my keys 2 or 3 times a week. Mm-hmm. That was causing me a lot of frustration and to some degree messing up my life. But I didn't realize it was a problem. I just thought, well, that's the way life is, or that's the way I am, or both. Mm-hmm. And it was my wife who identified it as a problem, because she said, I'm getting sick and tired of finding your damn keys for you. And I'm not going to do it anymore. And she then also came up with a strategy. I have to put my keys in this basket. I can't leave them in my pocket or put them on the bureau or leave them on my desk or the dining room table. They go in this basket. But the point I'm trying to make is I didn't realize it was a problem. It was just, something I had to deal with.
Yeah, it's happened so much, you just kind of accept it okay, that's life the way I am.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And since then, I've come up, of course, with a whole lot of other problems. And once you realize, well, this actually is a problem. This is causing me frustration and other problems and difficulties in my life, and it's costing me, and I don't like it. Then you have to decide, and it's big enough that I'm willing to work hard to do something about it, because we can't fix everything.
Right, and you have to kind of do them one at a time and not try to do...
2 or 3 at the most, yes. And then the other thing is to be very specific. Like, if I'd said, my problem is I keep losing things, I don't think I could have done much anything about that. But once I'm losing my keys, I can do something about that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned procrastination. Well, if I say I procrastinate a lot, that's a problem. It's causing me trouble, which certainly is. What am I going to do about that? I don't have a clue. But if I say I'm paying my bills late and having to pay penalties for that, and I'm tired of that, I don't want to procrastinate about my bills anymore, then I can come up with a strategy for bills.
Yeah, and I think in terms of problem, that's what kind of in the formal diagnosis part may be called an impairment, but basically it's something that's getting in the way of your life running smoothly.
Exactly. Or running it all sometimes.
Yeah, or running it all sometimes. Spinning around wondering what to do. And that gets to the calendar or task list. Every adult, ADD or not, has a lot of things to do. And with ADD, we often get 18 things on the list and don't know which one to do first. And on your way to do one, you see another one that needs to be started.
Right. Exactly.
So you mentioned that the to-do list for a given day ought to be 3 at best, maybe sneak another one in there. And most people roll their eyes and say, how can I only have 3?
Well, I actually usually say 5, but some days where I'm just struggling, I cut it down to 3. And some days when it's really difficult, I cut it to 1. And I make a target. I say, if I can get this one thing done today, I'll be, in a way, frustrated because my list is so long, but at least I will have done something, and that one thing will be done. And so that's why I really emphasize the list of 5 usually, because any more than that, for me, I just feel overwhelmed and swamped, and I don't know where to start, and I'm spinning in circles and blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
A lot of things we're not good at, and one of them is prioritizing. So you do make your list of 18 or 180 or however many it is, and it is hard to prioritize. And there's always all these schemes. You write numbers by them, and is there a deadline, and what's the penalty if you don't meet it, and all kinds of ways to try to figure. But that's a very hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I can ask my wife, well, here's the things I'm thinking about doing. What do you think? Where do you think I should start? That would be one technique. Another would be, I think you said, close your eyes and pick one at random just to have one to get moving. You're starting. We fall into these stagnant, overwhelmed, paralyzed positions if we don't, or I do anyway, if we're not using strategies to get moving.
Yes, and I think certainly many people with ADD have that sideline of perfectionism. I think maybe learned from figuring, okay, I'm not going to get criticized if it's perfect. But then if they're using that letter number system, they're spending 2 hours making the list so it's exactly right. Well, you just lost 2 hours to be actually doing something.
Right, exactly. I spend all my time planning and no time doing.
Yeah. So you finally determined what you need to do, but it's the doing that's always the trick.
So perfectionism is a trap, and it's a demon that will beset us, and I don't really know an answer to it other than recognize it and reject it. Maybe you have a more specific way to deal with it.
Well, I think there are a couple of different, again, things you can tell yourself. That the perfect is the enemy of the good.
Right.
What to you is 85%, to other people may be 105%. So it's really okay to deliver your 85 or 90%, and you may come up with some other tweaks to do. The other people may say, this is great, we can run with it. Then you can add more later, but you have something out there without spinning your wheels to have it exactly perfect.
Right, and never getting it done.
Right.
The mantra, I use a lot of mantras or slogans myself. A lot of the self-talk, you're emphasizing the negative self-talk, which is terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Terribly sabotaging and destructive. But there's also, I coach myself. I talk. Some people ask me sometimes, even without ADHD, well, I talk to myself. Is that okay? And I say, I talk to myself all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm my ADHD coach. So one of my mantras I say to myself is, good enough is good enough. If you've done it, you maybe even a poor job is good enough. It's a whole lot better than nothing at all.
Yeah.
So my mantra is good enough is good enough.
That's a great one. And certainly the overwhelmed part fits into that.
Oh yeah.
In that then GL, I've got too many things to do. Well, yes, if you're in the habit of doing everything perfectly, then there isn't going to be time. People stay up till 2:00 in the morning getting the video of their kids' baseball team season exactly right, and make sure every kid's in it. You want to make sure every kid's in it, but it doesn't have to have the editing and the music and the flow through and all that.
Right. Well, you're not going to win an Academy Award with it, no matter how hard you try.
That's right. Yeah. Right. And the fact that there's something there with every child in it, that's what parents are going to appreciate, not which music is where.
So you mentioned reasons for procrastination, and of course, the perfectionism is one of them. I had this thing I need to get done, and it looks pretty daunting. I think it's going to be hard. But then, if I've got to do it perfectly, man, it is really hard to get myself to start in on it, because I know I'm going to fail before I even try. Right,
because that's, of course, been your experience in the past.
Exactly, many times.
One strategy I'd heard of recently I thought was a pretty good one is, as soon as you catch yourself realizing, wait a minute, I'm doing this and I had intended to do that.
Right.
Go back and look at what was the decision point when I decided to do this other thing, which then may be a way to bring to awareness, it's because I don't like paying bills. I don't like this person I have to get the task done for. Or I'm no longer interested. It sounded cool 2 months ago when I said I'd do it. But then you can come up with a strategy.
That sounds good, but I would kind of think of it a little differently. We're all different. We need different strategies. But I would think, I just spotted, I was intending to do this. I started on this. Now I'm doing that instead. And I would just say, all right, darn it, go back to the first thing. I'm a psychotherapist, and I like insight, but I think sometimes it's another trap. I could spend 45 minutes trying to figure out why I didn't like to do that.
Yeah. And the certainly with procrastination, one strategy that often comes in, if it seems like a overwhelming task, start with, okay, I can do this 5 minutes, or at least do 20 minutes. You get the 20 minutes done, you've reached what you set out to do, so then give yourself a break. And as you mentioned in something we talked about before, the break can be the trap.
Right. But that's a very important point. You set your goal, well, I don't want to do this, I'm having a hard time getting started, I think I really dislike the whole idea, but I need to, so I'm going to spend 10 minutes on it. And then when you do the 10 minutes, you say to yourself, well, I did it. Pat yourself on the back, encourage yourself, coach yourself, you did it. Instead of, the negative self-talk. The other piece, that's a really good strategy, and the, I guess, companion strategy, though, which is terribly important, is the small steps.
Yes.
And so I have this job to do, and I don't want to do it, and it just seems overwhelming, and I'm not sure I can do it well, if I can do it at all, and blah, blah, blah. And so I'm sitting there stewing, and you have to break it into small steps. And then you pick one and work on it. That's your goal. Task. Well, the example I like to use is getting your taxes done. Well, that's on my list, but I can't get my taxes done. What I can do is gather the checks from wherever I've scattered them around the house. And so that would be my step. And when I've done that one, then I congratulate myself for having done it.
Yeah, I'd like one example you used in the book about, okay, I know I have to paint the room. First task, buy paint.
Right.
And I'd move back one, ask wife which color paint.
You better.
Exactly. And also include on there buy brushes.
Right. But so that may be a separate step. Although you'd like to make just one trip to the store, but you never get away with one trip to the store anyway.
No, I've discovered many times. I'm very glad that Home Depot is open till midnight. I guess I can go back to the second time or the third time to get what I really need. Another thing that certainly helps with staying with tasks, particularly something that, okay, that's a month from now, is the external accountability. Commit to somebody. Because we're really good at keep saying, okay, I'm going to do this. We've committed to ourselves. And then it's, yeah, but I'll get to it. I'll have time tomorrow.
Well, there's like 5 different things in what you just said. One is, well, that's a month away. I am a big advocate of this 3 months at a glance calendar. Because if it's a month away, for me, that's like an eternity.
Yep.
And if I say to myself, well, that's next week, that's like saying it's never.
Yeah.
So I really have to somehow pin myself down in time and really see where I am and what's happening. And visually helps me do that.
And that is another part of, okay, break it into small steps. What do I need to do today that's going to advance me toward the goal? I'm not going to finish writing that paper or whatever, but I'm at least going to find the book I need to read, or I'm going to read a chapter in that book that gives me some background.
Or sharpen my pencils.
Yeah, get my yellow pad out. I know one person I heard lecturing and talking about ADD, someone raised the question of organization, and he said, well, this is a pet peeve of mine. To me, organized is when I've got a clear space on my desk, big enough for my yellow pad and my pencil, and I can write. That's organized.
Right.
And, of course, everybody else knows you don't touch anything on Dad's desk because he can find it, but if you move it, then that breaks the system.
I wish my wife would accept that philosophy.
Yeah, they're kids that moms are saying, he never cleans up his room. I get a little bit sassy and say, that's what doors are for. If he can't find the pants he wants to, that's his problem.
Right.
Pretty soon he'll realize he's got to keep it cleaned up, and he doesn't want wrinkly shirts, so that girl won't criticize his shirts, and that helps. So one of the other things you'd mentioned was the lock yourself in.
Right. That's where I wanted to go from that other point you were making. We have so much trouble sticking to the task. And so the first thing that helps me is commitment, which unfortunately depends on willpower, which I have very little of. But when I start this task, I say to myself, self-talk again, coaching, I am going to stick to this task. And then the distraction comes up, and if I'm at my desk, it's easy. I just write it down on a sheet of paper, and then I go back to the original task. But I commit to sticking with it and to finishing it. And then lock yourself in, and you said, tell everybody you're going to do it.
Mm-hmm. And
there's some things, I have trouble coming up with good examples of it, but there are other ways to lock yourself into things. This isn't ADHD, but when I was a kid, I was scared of heights, but the other boys were running off and jumping off this cliff, and I was terrified.
Mm-hmm.
But I found out if I ran really fast, I had no choice. I would have to.
You committed.
Yeah, so that's the lock-in principle. Any way you can figure out to lock yourself into doing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the self-talk, kind of the affirmation before you even start. I'm going to finish this. I'm going to be able to stick with it. And
right.
Invariably, there will be something else pops into your mind. You get a call or a text or whatever. Write it down. Get back to what you were doing. You don't have to remember it because our working memory is way too leaky to do that.
Right.
But you've jotted it down and go back to where you're going. Pay attention to what you're paying attention to.
Right. And it does help me, even though it's willpower, it does help me just to commit to that at the beginning. Just promise myself I'm going to do that.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, I'd say certainly myself, I know there are times when I promise myself and then I haven't done it.
Right.
To say, okay, I can try again.
Right.
You know, past performance is not a guarantee of future results. I can give it a go another time.
Well, that's like the back to where you and I started today. The strategy, rule, habit. As you do that, you're going to keep screwing up, and you have to anticipate that. But you say, okay, I screwed up. I knew I was probably going to, and so now it's time to get back to it. And if you do that enough with the rule, it will eventually become a habit. And that is so wonderful because we have so little willpower and so little psychic energy. And if something's a habit, you don't have to make a decision. You don't have to force yourself. You don't have to think about it. You just do it. That's the goal.
Yeah, I find if I have one place I can see my keys, another place I know I've got the work keys here, and I always take that with me. And the one time I decide, well, I don't think I need that today, I forget to take the work keys out of it. Or I'm leaving the house, I'm at the door, and think, okay, now I've got my phone, I've got this and that. And there's this nagging feeling that something's not, I didn't pick it up, but it's probably not important. Then I get to the office and I don't have my lunch. So I've thought of...
Or something more important.
Right, my phone, and I need to enter things to do prescriptions from the phone and stuff. So I've thought of, okay, I'm just going to make a little list here and have it at the door, and I'm going to laminate it. So if I need to, I can literally check it off, and then the next day I can erase it and check it off again. I'm doing that for travel. We're doing a fair amount of traveling, and so I finally realized, okay, here is a problem, and I've made a checklist now for the things that I need to pack if we're going to travel, instead of getting there and
being without them, having to buy them or whatever. Another little piece of the habit thing is to always do it. So, for example, I always check my gas gauge when I get in the car.
Mm-hmm.
It's a habit now. Well, I may have just filled it up 15 minutes ago, and I know I filled it up 15 minutes ago. I'm going to go ahead and check it anyway, because if I don't, I'm weakening the habit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that association of get in the car, check the gas gauge. That's always and having locked my keys in my car enough times in the past 2 years, now I tend to hit the button to lock it, but I check my pocket first to make sure the keys are in it.
Right. Plus, I have a spare key.
Yeah. Now, usually I have the spare key, but it's in something. It's in the car, so I've got 2 sets of keys in the car. But I'm changing that habit, too.
So, you and I think have been working on this for quite a while, and very clearly we do not have it down yet. When we get this problem turned into habit and we can kind of check that off, good for me. I'm not driving off with the gas hose in my gas tank anymore.
Right.
Which I've done. But then there's other things. There's always something to work on.
Yeah, and I certainly find when people come in and I'm finally, this is ADD. I recognize and they want everything to be better next week.
Right.
Okay, let's work one step at a time. Yes, you didn't do this and this, but look at the 2 things you got done. And these, you said there were problems when you came in, and now you're doing it. So, and that's where we can encourage ourselves, almost keep a list of, this is what I now can do. These are the habits that are working.
That's the self-talk and the self-coaching, sure.
Mm-hmm. I think one other thing in this, when we were exchanging emails about this, you'd mentioned the one more thing. And I just, just one more thing is another one of those tyranny of grabbing our time away. It's a big trap.
Right. Well, and the corollary to that is, I have plenty of time.
Yes.
That's what I call a red flag. I have a lot of red flags. As soon as I hear myself saying, I've got plenty of time, whoa, let's stop. No, you don't.
Yep.
You never have plenty of time.
I think adults, particularly, the just one more thing is at 11:30 at night. You've already spent too much time looking up something on Amazon or the internet, whatever. Well, I'm just going to look at this one more thing. That's gone for another hour. And of course,
that's
your medicines aren't working then. So, and the one alarm system that I tell people about, I think, is a great invention called Freaky Alarm. So it's an app. Freaky Alarm. It's an app on the phone, and you can set any number of ways to turn it off, doing a little math problem or something. Well, you can scan a barcode. You pick the barcode, but when it goes off, you have to get to that barcode to turn it off. Well, if you're at your computer and the barcode's at your toothbrush, you have to break the trance of sitting at the computer. You can't pause it. You can't turn it off. You certainly aren't going to throw your phone out the window. So that's a way to get things changed, get you moving.
And there's another thing about the one more thing in a totally different angle. All these things interlock, I think, in a way. But we're getting ready to go. I have to go to the dentist this afternoon. Well, it's getting close, but I've got plenty of time. I can do this one more thing.
Yep.
And so again, strategy. I set the alarm for 5 minutes before I have to go, and then I leave when the alarm goes off. And
that's your rule.
That's the rule. I can't do one more thing.
That's just stick with that, and then you'll find, I'm getting places on time, and things like that. Well, we need to wrap up here. I'm so glad, Doug, that you could join me today. We've been talking about various strategies to help all of us with ADD with some of the common problems of procrastinating or just doing one more thing. And the basic outline is to identify the problem, create a strategy that's going to help you with it, make a rule that you're going to stick with, realize you probably won't stick with it all the time at first.
Right.
Say, okay, I can learn from this, I can get going again. And having affirmations, slogans, you tell yourself, I can stick with this. Good enough is good enough. Those are all really great points. So, Doug, thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I enjoy it.
Okay. Folks, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on ADHD Focus. This is Dr. David Pomeroy. Be well.